3 a.m. fast food confessions. Shocking encounters with the strangest customers ever. The neon lights flickered like distant stars in a sky choked by clouds. It was 3 a.m., an hour when the world turns sideways and reality drips into the bizarre. In the heart of the bustling city, a fast food joint stood alone, its greasy floors and plastic booths a stark contrast to the chaos outside. But inside, oddities awaited. Crazy stories lingered like the smell of fries frying up shapes and shadows that twisted in the dim light. Legend had it that if you worked the night shift, you were bound to meet the most shocking characters imaginable. The first customer was a tall, lean figure wrapped in a tattered trench coat, who shuffled through the door like a specter lost in time. His face was obscured by a wide-brimmed hat, and he moved with a strange certainty, each step echoing as if the floorboards warned of his approach. When he reached the counter, his breath snagged in the stagnant air, and he peered up through the brim. "I'm here for the secrets," he whispered, his voice a gravelly rasp, sending chills down the spine of young Kevin, the cashier. "The secrets of the fries." Kevin blinked, heart racing. "What secrets? The grease-drenched fries?" But before he could respond, the man reached into his coat, and a small notebook tumbled out pages crammed with hurried sketches of food items, but none you'd find on the menu. Kevin's tight chest felt worse, as if the air itself had thickened around him. What was he holding? In the dim light, he caught a glimpse of a drawing labeled mushroom burger, accompanied by an odd symbol. Suddenly, the whole array of bizarre customers seated nearby seemed to lean in, faces full of anticipation, eyes wide with the thrill of the unknown. Suddenly, another loud clatter broke the eerie tension. A woman burst through the door, her hair a frenzy of wild curls, eyes darting like a hawk. "Why all won't he believe what I just saw?" she cried, breathless as she braced the counter. The tension rose again, thickening like molasses. "There's a ghost in the alley." Gasps echoed around the room. Kevin felt the weight of all those strange encounters settling in like a storm. And just when he thought things couldn't get weirder, the front door swung open again. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Kevin grappled with the rising curiosity and the whirring tension, two teenagers slipped in, faces gleaming in the low light. The taller one, with a confident smirk, proclaimed, "Dare us to order the notorious midnight special?" The tension snapped, but excitement thrummed through the air. What lay behind the counter's force field of grease? What secrets did the night unfold? Everyone leaned in closer, hanging on their every word, knowing that at 3 a.m., anything was possible. Kevin felt his pulse quicken, the question looming over him. In a world of strange customers and midnight confessions, what intimidating encounter would come next? The murmur of curiosity swirled like smoke in the cramped diner. Kevin felt the pulse of the crowd, each heartbeat logged within the half-lit space, waiting, just waiting for something to ignite the night. The tall teenager, with brash confidence coursing through him, marched up to the counter. "We heard about the midnight special. You know, the one that's only served when the moon is full and something weird is in the air?" His laughter rang loudly, but his eyes darted, betraying a flicker of uncertainty. The other teen nudged him forward, egging him on to as tension flooded the room again. Kevin's hands trembled as he fiddled with the register. We don't have anything like that on the menu," he managed, trying to mask the unease crawling up his spine. "Oh, come on." The second teenager chimed in with a conspiratorial wink. "You've got to have something. Something that nobody knows about." The whole place leaned forward, so eager to plunge into the unknown. The wild-haired woman, still buzzing from her earlier entrance, interjected, wide-eyed, "They say it's the best burger you'll ever taste. But it comes with a price." Her voice sent shivers through the crowd, and a mix of disbelief and excitement coursed among the patrons. Shadows seemed to deepen at her words, gray faces flickering under the neon glow. Kevin swallowed hard. He felt trapped between the reality of a fast food joint and the vibrant tales swirling like loose change in the air. Okay, but tell us, what's the price? The first teenager leaned in, voice trembling with exhilaration. The man in the trench coat finally stirred, bringing a quiet intensity to his cold gaze. The price isn't always something you can see. His words dripped like poison into the eager air. A collective gasp surged through the room, echoing against the greasy booths. The wild-haired woman scoffed. Come on, we're not scared of a little mystery. In that moment, the diner vibrated with a charged anticipation. The cusp of something terrifying and thrilling hung in the air like smoke. Kevin felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The evening air was heavy with questions, the answers obscured beneath layers of humor and dread. Who has to pay? The teenagers mimicked each other, their voices overlapping as if practicing their lines for a strange play. The man in the trench coat shuffled closer, shadows swallowing his features, only his sharp, gleaming eyes peeking through the murky darkness. You must be willing to risk a piece of yourself. What? Like a secret? Asked the second teenager, half laughing, half concerned, but even as he spoke, the weight of impending revelation hung thick in the room. The tall teenager exchanged glances with his friend, uncertainty washing over their bravado. What if we're not ready? Who's ever ready for the unexpected? The woman whispered, her eyes glinting like stars. But once you take that step, you can't turn back. The atmosphere crackled, saturated with anxiety and wild fascination as Kevin's pulse quickened. What lay behind the next door? And what would they lose or gain by unlocking the secrets of those fabled midnight offerings? Just then, a low, distant howl echoed from outside, followed by an eerie silence that swept through the diner. The front door creaked open slowly, and a figure appeared, backlit by the headlights of passing cars. It was a woman draped in what looked like a shimmering cloak, her face obscured but her presence striking. You have summoned me, she spoke softly, each word sending a ripple of electricity through Kevin and the others. What now? He thought, adrenaline surging through him. The air felt electric, and something deep inside him whispered that this night would change everything. Are you ready to pay the price? She asked, stepping closer, curiosity entwined with dread. What price would be revealed as the night continued? The tension grew thick again, bearing down on him like a storm, pulling Kevin closer to the edge of revelation. And then came the whisper from behind the counter. What happens next might be your greatest regret. As the eyes of the patrons widened and gasps pierced the silence, Kevin braced himself, knowing they were about to confront something far beyond the friars and false bravado of greasy late-night orders. What awaited them all in that moment was a terrifying truth, the pull of destiny, lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike. The atmosphere was thick as the woman in the shimmering cloak stepped forward, her presence demanding attention. A subtle hum surrounded her, like the distant ticking of a clock. Kevin felt an icy breeze slip through the diner, weaving around them, almost whispering secrets he wasn't ready to hear. What do you want? Kevin's voice trembled, breaking the lingering silence that had fallen over the room. The eyes of the other patrons were glued to the woman, each one gripping their seats as if bracing for something wild and unpredictable. The woman tilted her head, her voice velvety smooth. Ah, my dear, the real question is, what are you willing to sacrifice? Each choice comes with its consequences. Are you prepared to embrace the unknown? Her eyes glinted, flickering with an intensity that seemed to pierce through to Kevin's very core. The tall teenager laughed nervously, but the sound felt hollow in the charged space. Okay, so what's the deal? We risk something. What do we get? Knowledge, she replied cryptically, her fingers dancing along the air, twirling as if drawing invisible lines. The kind that can change your life forever or seal your fate. What kind of knowledge? The second teenager interjected, curiosity overcoming his earlier doubt. You said it was the best burger ever, right? We came for the food. That would be the bait, she said, a smirk crossing her lips. The feast awaits, but the true offering is deeper than flavor. Kevin's heart raced as he glanced at the wild-haired woman, who sat silently, her face now a mask of rapt attention. The other patrons watched closely, breath held, waiting for the next revelation. There was a deeper pulse in the diner, an unspoken agreement shared among them. Then let us make a deal, Kevin dared, his voice stronger than he felt. What's the price, and what do we get? The mysterious woman laughed softly, like a breeze rustling through dry leaves. Words have weight, my eager friend. Each choice you make will carve pieces of your spirit away and lay them bare in front of me. Are you ready to gamble with your very essence? A deep stillness followed. Kevin could feel every eye sharpen on him, hearts beating as one chaotic rhythm. The tall teenager shifted uncomfortably, reaching for his friend, squeezing his arm for reassurance. I don't think this is a good idea, his friend muttered, looking away, fear flooding his eyes that Kevin's resolve quivered. But what if she's telling the truth? What if we could really know something important? Something extraordinary? The wild-haired woman leaned in, her voice low, barely above a whisper. But what if knowing that extraordinary thing tears apart everything you thought you knew? Wouldn't that be the true cost? A moment hung in the air, thick and viscous. The crowd's breaths merged into a single prolonged inhale, the tension boiling just beneath the surface. They were standing on the brink of something monumental, the fridge hum fading into the background noise of their racing hearts. What is it going to be? The cloaked woman extended a hand, inviting yet foreboding. Are you ready to take the plunge? Everyone in the diner was frozen, caught between fear and reckless curiosity. What if? Kevin's voice broke through the silence, charged with urgency. What if we're too scared? What if we can't handle what is coming? The woman's grin widened, a flash of white teeth in the dim light. Then you must decide your path quickly, because time doesn't wait for the uncertain. The moon hangs heavy tonight, and so does fate. As her words echoed, the howl from the distance returned, louder and sharper this time. The walls of the diner seemed to tremble, and the world outside felt dark and ominous in that crucial moment. Uncertainty spun into chaos. Would they uncover the truth hidden beneath the layers of mystery? Or would they find something far worse lurking just behind that shimmering veil? And just like that, the choice began to loom before them. Would they step cautiously into the abyss? Or would they shy away, letting the chance slip through their fingers? In the crackling silence that followed, truth and fear collided. And as the night deepened, Kevin knew they were about to uncover something far scarier than a burger. The air buzzed with unspoken tension. Every minute felt like an hour as Kevin stood at the threshold of an irreversible decision. The woman's outstretched hand shimmered in the dim light, an ethereal invitation cloaked in uncertainty. Kevin, the tall teenager's shaky voice broke the spell. We shouldn't. This isn't just a game. We have no idea what's at stake. The other patrons nodded, fear etched across their faces. Everyone sensed the weight of those words hanging between them, as if the very walls of the diner were eavesdropping on their collective apprehension. Then you stay behind, Kevin challenged, driven by a surge of rebellion that surged through him, but I'm not letting fear make my choices. I won't be a prisoner to the unknown. The cloaked woman's eyes widened slightly, and the corner of her mouth twitched into an approving smirk. That's the spirit, dear boy. The wild-haired woman, who had finally spoken, leaned closer, her voice trembling like the flickering neon lights above. But what if it is the wrong decision? What if facing the truth is worse than living in ignorance? Enough, Kevin shouted, feeling the ripples of chaos erupting within the diner. I can't stand here wondering what if anymore. The cloaked woman's laughter mixed with the hum of the diner, creating an eerie melody. Then take my hand, she beckoned once more, her voice dripping with promise and lure. Let us unearth those burning questions. With a quick gasp, Kevin inhaled the chill that permeated the air. Everyone in the diner seemed to hold their collective breath, eyes locked on him. Anxiety twisted his gut, but something deeper and unquenchable thirst for understanding pulled him closer that he reached out and clutched her hand. Instantly, the world around them shifted. The chatter of the diner faded. The lights dimmed, their warm glow morphing into shades of blue and purple, wrapping the room in an otherworldly ambience. A jolting surge shot through Kevin's veins as kaleidoscopic visions swirled before him, blurring reality and fantasy. Welcome, she whispered, her voice echoing as if coming from everywhere at once. Welcome to the veil that separates choice from consequence, dreams from nightmares. The diner faded away, replaced by vast cosmic landscapes swirling in stunning vibrant colors. Kevin gasped, The stark contrast of their mundane meal transformed into a spectacle of lights and shadows. He felt lost, but oddly exhilarated. A deep, primal instinct urged him to keep moving forward. "Behold the truths you seek," the woman said, her form now more intense, almost engulfed in glowing auras. "But remember, accepting the knowledge comes at a cost." Around Kevin, he saw glimpses of whispered secrets, visions of distant lives, people grappling with their own sacrifices at the crossroads of their existence. Pain flashed in their eyes, regret gutting their souls, and perhaps even relief. "Stop, please," Kevin cried out, clenching the woman's hand tightly, panic boiling in him. "What is this? What are you showing me?" She simply smiled, a gleeful creature of shadows. "Just a taste. Imagine being privy to the deepest, darkest desires of those around you. Imagine knowing their secrets." An uproar of voices broke through the reverie. Kevin turned to find the patrons of the diner standing just beyond the swirling cosmic vista, their forms now ghostly, barely holding their human shape. "What have you brought us into?" the wild-haired woman cried, her voice trembling with terror. The cloaked woman's laughter rang out, a haunting melody that sent chills racing down Kevin's spine. "Welcome to the realm of truths, where ignorance is the most dangerous game, and your journey has only just begun." With an overwhelming rush, reality surged forward. Kevin was back in the diner, barely able to catch his breath. The other customers also stirred back to life, confusion etched in their faces, but the cloaked woman remained, her enigmatic grin as unsettling as ever. "What did we just experience?" the tall teenager gasped, sweat glistening on his brow. "Just a preview of what is to come," she said, her voice a silken promise. "Tell me now, who among you intends to discover the full truth?" As Kevin's heart thundered in his chest, a realization began to settle in. They might have awakened something more monstrous than they could ever comprehend. The night outside had become deathly silent, the moon casting eerie shadows that danced upon the diner's walls. Are you ready to embrace the shadows, or will you run from what you've just seen? In that moment, everyone felt that the choice to uncover the terrifying truth was more than just a gamble. It was a dark invitation. And what if the truth was worse than they could ever imagine? The air was electric, a silent warfare of fear against curiosity. Everything felt like a trap ready to spring. Kevin's heart raced, echoes of his own voice fading as dread seeped into his mind. "Did we just?" The tall teenager's voice quivered, shattering the stunned silence that held everyone captive. "What the hell was that?" The cloaked woman basked in their shaken expressions. Her eyes' dark pools filled with secrets gleamed with anticipation. Each patron was transfixed, some clutching their tables, others nervously exchanging glances. "Fear not, sweet souls," she purred, letting the words slither into every corner of the diner. "For understanding can be a terrifying, yet thrilling ride." "Thrilling?" The wild-haired woman spat, the defiance in her voice a flimsy banner against the tide of fear washing over them. "You call that thrilling? I call it madness." Kevin felt a surge of defiance mixed with anxiety. "What do you want from us?" he shouted, his voice quaking. Her smile widened, revealing glimmering teeth, sharp and alluring. "What I want is simple. I want you to dig deeper. Dive into the uncharted waters of your desires. We all possess secrets we'd rather bury." A shudder passed through Kevin. Was this a game they could win, or one that only led to peril? He scanned the eyes of those in the diner. Were they willing to confront whatever darkness loomed inside them? "Will this hurt us?" the tall teenager asked, his voice barely a whisper, becoming the anchor for the group's trepidation. "Only if you resist," the cloaked woman declared, tilting her head in mock pity. "And if you look closely, you may find the shadow holds more treasures than you dare to dream." An uneasy silence stretched between words, the kind that quelled the heart. Out of the corner of his eye, Kevin noticed the flicker of a spectral image fluttering behind the bar. A shadow danced, flitting in and out of reality, drawing Kevin in like a moth to flame. "Look," he cried, pointing. All heads turned, eyes widening. The tension surged as the spectral image solidified into a ghostly figure, a former patron trapped in limbo. Kevin's breath caught in his throat. It was a young man, eyes hollow, lips curled in anguish as if caught in a moment of agony. Each gasp echoed through the minds of onlookers, a collective realization settling in a mirror reflecting their deepest fears. Can we help him? The tall teenager breathed, voice thick with the weight of their shared dread. The cloaked woman's laughter bubbled up, rich and unsettling. I'll help. Or will you find something darker within him, something that could unravel your very souls? Kevin felt ice crystallize in his veins. This is a mistake, he muttered, his inner turmoil tearing at the seams. Maybe we should stop now. The wild-haired woman cut in, burning with newfound determination. We have to see this through. We cannot turn back now. The cloaked woman observed them, seemingly amused by their turmoil. Such spirit. But remember, knowledge can bind you in ways you've never imagined. With that, the diner shook. The neon lights flickered violently, casting erratic shadows that morphed into haunting forms, screaming for salvation. Step up, Kevin, the woman beckoned, her voice a soft caress laced with temptation. What's it going to be? Are you ready to push beyond the veil? Are you willing to face your own darkness? Kevin swallowed hard. Every part of him urged to flee. But entwined with fear was a strand of bravery that wouldn't let go. He stepped forward, heart thundering. The choice was his, and as all eyes landed on him, he understood the weight of what lay ahead. Before he could answer, a chilling scream pierced through the atmosphere, shattering the tension echoing from the spectral figure. What have you done? The figure shrieked, and the air thickened with dread. The cloaked woman's eyes glittered maliciously. It begins, and as Kevin braced for the storm to come, uncertainty gripped him tighter than ever. How was this going to end? Would the truth set them free or lock them in a nightmare that would never loosen its grip? The path twisted further, and they stood on the edge, teetering on the brink of revelation. What lay in the shadows, was it merely a reflection of themselves, or something infinitely more sinister? The scream hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Kevin felt his chest tighten, heart pounding as every soul in the diner turned their gaze to the spectral figure. The young man's anguish was palpable, pulling at each of them in different ways, each person wrestling with their own fears and regrets. What do you mean? Kevin finally stumbled out, his voice trembling. What have we done? The phantom's hollow eyes drilled into him, as if searching for some forgotten part of himself. You awakened me to this torment. I am bound here, cursed by the very secrets I tried to escape. The cloaked woman's smile turned sinister. And now, she whispered, leaning closer, you all must decide whether to set him and yourselves free or send him deeper into despair. What will you choose? A whirlwind of panic swept through the diner. The wild-haired woman clutched her stomach, eyes wide with disbelief. We can't just sit here, and the tall teenager interrupted her, voice raw with intensity. What if helping him means unleashing something worse? Maybe we should listen to him. This can't be right. Or maybe it's a trick, shouted a nervous man in the corner, his face pale as he leaned against the table, desperate for support. What if this is just a game? A sick, twisted game? The room began to spiral, confusion clouding their judgment. Kevin's instincts warred between the instinct to flee and the need to help. It had to be one or the other. The clashing voices became a cacophony, a storm wrecking any semblance of unity they once shared. Enough! Kevin finally roared, trying to stabilize the group. He took a step forward, locking eyes with the spectral figure. You're trapped in this place. We want to help you, but first, we need to know what happened. The ghost recoiled, pain flaring in his expression. I sought truth in the wrong places, he rasped, words pouring like bitter poison. I was blinded by my own desires. I ignored the warning signs. Now, I pay the price as I linger in this endless hunger. The cloaked woman clapped slowly, a taunting applause that blended with the whispering shadows. What will it be, dear guests? Will you face the desires that bind you, or walk away from the very truth that could liberate or destroy you? In that moment, the diner plunged into a thick silence, the kind that felt heavy as lead. Faint lights above flickered erratically, casting jagged shadows that crept closer. Kevin could feel the weight of decision borne upon his shoulders, the suffocating pressure of responsibility stifling his breath. The wild-haired woman stepped closer, her voice quieter now, but the flicker of resolve shining through. We've all got demons hiding in the dark. What if helping him means facing our shadows? Another figure, a young man in a denim jacket, muttered almost to himself, yet it seemed to resonate powerfully. But what if facing those demons leads us to our own destruction? The thought ricocheted through Kevin's heart. Was there cruelty woven in a helping? Was the cloaked woman right, that understanding might bind them? Kevin, what do we do? The tall teenager's voice broke through the fog of uncertainty, eyes wide, begging for direction. For a heartbeat, Kevin swayed, the ghostly figure looming ever larger in the periphery of his vision, agony deepening in those empty, relentless eyes. We have to try, don't we? But as he spoke those words, the diner shook violently once more. The walls vibrated with a fierce wind, shadows dashed across the room like wild animals, and the cloaked woman's laughter echoed above the chaos. Suddenly a flash of light illuminated the room, blinding them all. Kevin shielded his eyes, dread coiling in his gut. Something is coming, he shouted, but his voice was swallowed by the roar. And in that moment of sheer chaos, a new cry erupted, a sound not of torment, but of great, unquenchable rage. What terrors had they unintentionally unleashed? As the light faded, an ominous hush fell, thick with unspoken horror. What awaited them now, truth or destruction? And even if they found the answer, would they survive the journey to it? The diner's silence was suffocating, heavy with the weight of dread that settled over every patron like a thick fog. Kevin squinted through the fading light, trying to make sense of what lay before him. The shadows twisted and writhed, and though the ghostly figure stood still, a palpable energy radiated from him, as if the very air around them crackled with unease. That a low growl rumbled from the depths of the diner, a sound reminiscent of thunder. It seeped into their bones, vibrating through the metal chairs and sticky tables. What is that? The wild-haired woman gasped, clutching her own arms, fingers almost drawing blood as they sank into her skin. I don't know, Kevin stammered, his heart racing in tandem with the chaotic energy. He could feel the encroaching darkness tightening around them, like a noose drawn by unseen hands. The frightened man in the corner whispered, "This was a mistake. We should have never intervened." His face was ghostly pale, and his trembling hands fidgeted as though he were searching for an escape. "You're right. Let us just go," shouted the tall teenager, his voice a high-pitched plea that echoed in the stillness, desperately trying to pierce the storm of fear embedded in the other souls in the diner. But before a decision could be reached, the cloaked woman laughed again, rich and ominous, every note deepening the growing panic. "You think you can turn away from your truths? That is not how this works." Suddenly, the spectral figure raised his skeletal hand, the air thickening around him as he opened his mouth. "I can help you see," but before he could finish, the lights overhead flickered wildly again, plunging the diner into darkness for a heartbeat. Then, the darkness erupted with blinding brightness, shadowy tendrils spiraling into the air like grasping hands. The specter's anguished expression became clearer, his voice rising in pitch. "You must see your own darkness, or it will consume you." The young man's words echoed in Kevin's mind, amplifying the terror that had gripped him since the moment they had stepped into the diner. "What do we have to see?" Hands gripped the table beneath him, knuckles white with fear. The raw energy pulsated like a living thing. Kevin's gaze flicked toward the cloaked woman. Her expression was that of twisted delight, a puppeteer reveling in the chaos. "Embrace it," she commanded, her voice sharp enough to cut through the din. The shadows twisted closer, swaying as though influenced by her very words. The clamor rose to a fever pitch, hearts racing and blood pumping. The wild-haired woman shrieked, "No, we have to fight. Don't let it take us." But before she could finish, the ghost lunged forward, his hollow eyes locked on Kevin's. "Face what you fear. Only then can you unlock the door." He pointed into the shadows, an opening of swirling darkness that seemed to tremble with potential. "No," Kevin shouted, heart thundering against his ribs. "What if it leads to our end?" The diner rippled violently, the floor vibrating and rattling silverware, the cacophony of voices merging into one terrifying sound. Each person began to vacillate between fight or flight, the decision critical. And just then, a tall figure emerged from the dark, the silhouette of a monstrous form, formless yet grotesque, snapping at the edges of reality. A twisted visage opened its maw, revealing rows of jagged teeth that seemed to glow in the dim light. The cloaked woman's laughter erupted again, echoing off the walls like the pealing of sinister bells. Prepare yourselves. The real test has only just begun. Each face turned toward Kevin, raw fear apparent in those pleading eyes. Was he meant to lead them into the abyss? And as the creature advanced, its presence chilling the marrow in his bones, he realized they had only one chance left to confront their own demons. Could they accept the darkness within and harness it to escape? Or would it consume them forever? As the tension spiked and the shadows crept closer, Kevin knew one truth. The next moments would decide their fates. Would they find freedom, or was this the last stand before oblivion? The monstrous figure loomed, its grotesque features twisting in the dim light, a nightmare given form. Kevin could barely breathe as icy tendrils of fear wrapped around his chest. It was a living blur of darkness, its jagged teeth glistening, promising nothing but terror. But it wasn't just the creature. It was the weight of judgment in the eyes of the others. They were looking to him. Do something. The wild-haired woman cried, her panic spilling over into desperation. Her wide eyes echoed doubt and fear, mirroring Kevin's own muddled thoughts. What could he possibly do against such darkness? Face it. We have to embrace it. The cloaked woman shouted, her voice slicing through the chaos like a knife. The shadows seemed to pulse, responding to her words, gliding closer, hungry for a morsel of despair. But instead of fighting, a chilling realization washed over Kevin. They weren't just up against a creature, they were facing themselves. Each person in the diner had carried their own secrets, their own darkness. Now, it all began to swirl, mixing with the shadows that lashed around them like a storm. You think this creature wants to devour you? The ghostly figure rasped, his skeletal hand gesturing toward the horrifying entity. It only mirrors what's in your heart. His heart thundered in his chest as vivid memories flashed in his mind, a childhood filled with guilt, a father who had looked into his eyes only to see disappointment, a mother who cried alone while he pretended everything was fine. It was unbearable. Shadows of regret that he had buried deep clawed their way to the surface. The diner shook violently, chairs scraping against the floor, silverware clattering like angry chimes. Stop! Kevin shouted, though his voice felt small, swallowed by the cacophony. We can't let it take us. We need to face our fears together. The frightened man in the corner, his lips quivering, nodded slowly. Together? You think that will work? This isn't just a fight against it, but the fight within ourselves. We can't let the darkness rule us. Kevin's voice trembled, but something inside him ignited. We have to show it our light. The wild-haired woman took a tentative step forward, eyes glistening with a newfound determination. What if the way out is through? She whispered, almost to herself. The cloaked woman's smile widened, eyes flashing with sinister delight. Then choose, mortals. Show me your light, or let it be snuffed out. With the monstrous figure creeping closer, the unseen weight of their fears gripped each person. Together, they closed their eyes, taking deep breaths. Memories clamored for attention, dark secrets ready to surface. But instead of spiraling into despair, something shifted. Let us share, Kevin cried. Let us turn our darkness into strength. One by one, confessions began to weave through the thick air. The frightened man stepped forward, trembling slightly. I lost my brother to my own mistakes. I carry that guilt every day. The room gasped, shadows retreating as the specter's hold loosened, revealing flickers of inner light. I've hidden my addiction from everyone, the wild-haired woman confessed, her voice cracking but fiercer now. But I'm done being afraid. I choose to fight. Light shimmered in the corners of the diner, illuminating faces once shadowed by despair. Each confession took a weight off their shoulders, banishing some of the dark tendrils wrapping around them. Kevin felt the energy shift, coalescing into something powerful and resilient. But the monstrous figure howled, furious at their resilience. It lunged forward, seeking to crush their newfound light. The walls trembled, and the lights flickered but didn't fade. Kevin's heart raced as he shouted, "This is our moment. Acknowledge your shadows. They don't define you." When it seemed hopeless, the figment of darkness hesitated. For an instant, it appeared almost human, lost and vulnerable. "Embrace it," shouted Kevin again, urging them onward. The shimmering light intensified, blindingly bright. The room grew hot, an electric buzz in the air as each soul dared to proclaim their truth. They were not alone. But just as it seemed hope could conquer, the diner was hit by a deafening crash, and the ground shook. The monstrous figure screeched, throwing a wave of darkness that slammed against Kevin, knocking him to the ground. Waves of panic splashed like ice-cold water over him as the lights flickered once more. He could hear only muffled sounds, distant screams blending with whispers of doubt. Then he struggled to stand, his vision blurred, awareness flickering. "Kevin," echoed the voices around him. "Keep fighting." But as he regained his footing, he noticed something twisted in the depths of darkness. A figure writhed, the shadows shifting, seemingly reaching for him, searching and waiting. What was it? What lay concealed in the murk that surrounded him? It seemed far from over, and Kevin felt the urgency surge within. He had to understand, there was still a piece missing. He stumbled back, wondering, what if there was more to their darkness than they realized? What if it held the key to their escape, or something far worse? Kevin pushed himself up, his heart racing like a runaway train, every breath heavy with the smell of burnt coffee and sweat. The ground beneath him pulsed, thumping like a living organism, as shadows coiled greedily around his ankles. He fought against the darkness that felt so familiar, tightening its grip on his mind and spirit. "Get up," he urged himself, staggering toward the wild-haired woman, who was now surrounded by a flickering halo of light. "You've got to keep sharing. We need to stand together. But what if it only makes it angry?" she cried, her voice quivering. "Then we fight like hell," Kevin shouted, glancing back at the monstrous figure, now roaring in anger and lunging toward them, sharp claws ripping through the air. "It's not about making it angry. It's about showing it that we're stronger," he insisted, holding out his hand. "Trust me." Others began to rally. Hesitation slipped away like shadows fleeing the dawn. One by one, they stepped forward, drawing courage from their vulnerabilities. The frightened man shook yet allowed his trembling voice to rise above the din. "I couldn't be there for my family when they needed me." The weight of his guilt transformed into a fierce blast of light that blazed into the air. "But I will not hide anymore." With each confession, the grotesque creature writhed, its form shifting, as though it was being torn apart by their lights. Kevin felt a strange connection. The monstrous figure was reflecting their hurt, their darkest fears, but they were erasing it with their bravery. A memory pulled at him, the truth he had tried to bury, the guilt that twisted around his core like barbed wire. "I've never forgiven myself for leaving my mother in that hospital," Kevin called out, his voice trembling but clear. "I had the chance to stay, but I ran. I thought running would protect me." He blinked back tears, feeling the shadows shrink at his confession. Suddenly, the horrifying entity staggered, its howl of rage faltering as if struggling for some critical breath. The diner was now alive with light, and he could see it reflecting in the eyes of those around him their own fears, their own anger, all brought to the surface. "Keep going, don't stop," the wild-haired woman cried. "We have to purge it." One after another, they poured out their truths, raw and jagged like broken glass. The cloaked woman stepped ahead, her sinister smile fading, showing hints of something softer, raw. "I thought the darkness was my only power, but it's also my greatest weakness." The shadows around her thinned, flickering as if retreating in fear. "Fear is a prison," Kevin whispered, understanding dawning clearer with every revelation. "But light, our truth, can set us free." The monstrous figure shifted, revealing swirling shadows deep within. What was that? A glimpse of vulnerability? Kevin felt a surge of empathy. What if it's not just darkness? What if it's pain begging us to see it? At that moment, the creature shuddered, and for an instant, Kevin glimpsed something startling in its depths, a flicker of recognition. Could it feel their pain? Was it simply longing for release, too? The winds within the diner howled, rattling the windows as the creature reared back, its form becoming almost human in the glimmering light. Kevin felt a connection, a heartbeat amidst the chaos, and knew they were almost there. The chaos suddenly came to a climax, the shadows twisting into a vortex of darkness, spiraling around him like a tornado of despair. Kevin was swept up, feeling himself drawn into a whirlpool of voices, his own drowning amongst cries of an eternal struggle. "Face it. Don't succumb," he shouted, feeling the pressure mount. But then the walls began to shake, and he was thrown back against the counter. It was the embodiment of their darkness pushing back, The other S light flickered like candles in a storm. Kevin. The wild-haired woman's voice was shrill with panic. What now? He clutched a nearby table, gasping for breath, his mind racing. The creature's form loomed larger, threatening to engulf them all. Then, with one final push against the madness, he channeled every fragment of light they had built, shouting into the storm, "We are more than our darkness. Together, we fight." As if in response, the shadows twisted violently, revealing another figure writhing within the darkness, a face, half-formed, half-beloved. Kevin's heart skipped. It was someone he knew. Someone lost. Who was it? What connection did it have to all of them? The diner tightened around them, the air crackling, and he found himself staring into the very face of his worst fears, teetering on the edge of acceptance and terror. What lay beyond that shadow? And as the light fought desperately to break through, time hung by a thread, like a whisper in the chaos, leaving Kevin breathless and questioning. Would they embrace it, or would this be their end? As the shadows swirled, Kevin felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. The air crackled with tension, a storm about to unleash its fury. The catastrophic darkness that loomed over the diner morphed into a kaleidoscope of twisted faces, each contorted with pain and longing. Kevin's resolve solidified. They weren't just fighting for themselves anymore, they had a chance to help those lost within the shadows. "Look," he cried, pointing to the half-formed face teetering within the darkness. A flicker of recognition sparked in the eyes of his companions, a thread of connection binding them. "It's someone we all know. This creature is not just our fears, it's the pain we hide." It was like a dam breaking. The wild-haired woman's voice rang out first, fierce and unwavering. "It's time we unmask our pasts. Embrace the truth, no matter how painful." The other patrons rallied, their voices rising in a chorus that pierced the darkness. "I lost my brother," the tall teenager shouted, his voice raw and tremulous. "And I never told anyone how much it hurt." With that, a pulse of light radiated from him, pushing back against the shadows. "I grew up in chaos." The young man in the denim jacket joined in, his voice gathering strength. "But I will not let it define me. I am stronger than my past." The cloaked woman's smile faded as she watched, a flicker of concern crossing her features. Kevin took note. Could this be the turning tide? "Identity is forged in struggle," she said quietly, almost hesitantly. "But few understand the power in vulnerability. Let us lean into that power." Kevin shouted, more certain than ever. "Let us lean into it together." Kevin felt a surge of warmth threaded through their confessions. It was palpable, racing through the diner. They were shedding their darkness instead of fearing it. They were unfolding their truths, and for the first time, the monstrous form pulsed, flickering in and out of existence, unable to anchor its shape amidst their shining light. "Keep going," the wild-haired woman encouraged. "This is our chance. We won't allow fear to be our prison anymore." Another brave soul stepped forward. "I've always hidden behind laughter, but I'm scared. I'm scared of being seen." Their confession cracked open an unseen space in the cocoon of darkness. Light burst forth, pushing back the shadows like rays of sunlight infiltrating a long-closed room. "Show me your essence," the cloaked woman beckoned, her eyes sharp with realization. "Break your silence." With every confession, the creature twisted and writhed in agony, the shadows that framed it shedding away, silhouetting a being yearning for release. It was as if the ground itself responded, trembling softly. "Face it," Kevin screamed yet again, his voice carrying their combined strength. "We will face it together." All at once, voices overlapped, a symphony of vulnerabilities crashing together in a cathartic wave. "I ran away when I should have stayed." A choked sob from the frightened man. "I let fear tell me who I am." The wild-haired woman's voice resonated deep. Their truths intertwined, forged in the fires of redemption. The shadows recoiled, their grip weakening with each loving confession. Kevin felt himself guided by some unseen force, edging closer to the monstrous edges that had loomed so long over them. What was it that they feared? What if facing the monster meant releasing the wrongs they bore? With each exchanged truth, the bonds grew more visible, casting light into once blue voids. The towering creature staggered, straining under the brightness, its jagged edges flickering as if slowly dissolving. "I'm ready," Kevin shouted. I'm ready to feel the light break through. In an electrifying moment, the creature let loose a howl that echoed through the diner, sharp and in the depths, shaking every soul to their core. Kevin pressed forward, eyes blazing with determination. We will not be afraid. We stand strong against you. The light swelled, pouring from each heart in the diner like a torrential wave crashing upon the shores of doubt and despair. Shadows quivered under the onslaught, bright light penetrating every crevice, illuminating the darkness wrapped around the creature. The figure stumbled, a tormented echo of its former self erupting into a chaos of colors and forms, revealing glimpses of the souls it had ensnared. Kevin's heart raced as they surged forward, casting shadows aside, racing toward the spirit locked within. Embrace it, he yelled, unleashing a final roar that lifted the fog. Let the truth guide us. We are more than our pain. In that pivotal moment, the shadows dissolved as the creature's form was overtaken by the light, the veil of darkness torn apart. The faces it had gnarled faded one by one, revealing the kindred spirits beneath the very souls who had tried to escape. The diner erupted in a blinding brilliance, washing away doubts and fears, enveloping everyone in the solace of acceptance. They stood together, hearts intertwined, having unlocked an extraordinary kinship in their shared vulnerabilities. As the lights dimmed, Kevin felt a calming warmth embrace the room, stirring fresh hope within each remaining soul. The cloaked woman held her gaze steady, no longer threatening, but instead contemplative. You faced your darkness and emerged, she declared, a hint of admiration in her voice. You have embraced the power of light and truth. Is this the end? Kevin whispered, hesitant yet relieved. It's just the beginning, she replied, the encroaching shadows retreating further back, surrendering to the brilliance of their newfound strength. With that, the haunted diner slowly began to transform a familiar space now soaked with light, warmth, and echoes of renewed promises. And as they stood in unity, a spirit lifted, revealing a shining horizon, one that held waves of hope, urging them forward through the unknown. But, for now, it was a moment of peace. Kevin let out a long-held breath, each inhale solidifying clarity. We made it, didn't we? He murmured softly, a smile spreading across his face, looking at the faces anew. Together, we took that leap. As the energy settled, Kevin turned to face the others, exhilaration coursing through him. What is next, fam? This is our fresh start. And as the gathering broke into laughter and chatter, a new chapter loomed ahead, one sparkling with light, colored by truths they had bared and embraced with open hearts. But remember, each night may hold secrets still waiting to unfold. Don't let the darkness hold you back again. This is the moment to seize your own stories, to face your shadows, and let the light in. And now, you must act. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending, because we want to hear your thoughts. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This community thrives on your support, so don't wait even one more second. Act now. Only true fans understand the importance of uplifting this channel through their involvement.